What's up, guys? Eli here. Welcome to my very first episode of Discourse, Damnation. This series, I'll be choosing a popular topic of discussion in metal, give my opinion, and why I hold that opinion. This will probably be the only time I ever claim to do anything popular on this channel. Today's topics are about arguments about what genre a band belongs to, and I have chosen probably the two most argued about bands in the history of metal. Let's get started. So the first band we're going to be talking about are Venom. And the question is going to be, are Venom black metal or not? You're obviously going to have pretty much two separate warring camps. You're going to have, the people on one side that are most likely people in their 40s or 50s and were even maybe there when Venom were breaking. And, obviously those are going to be the ones with the opinion firmly rooted in, yes, Venom are black metal. They've always been black metal. They created black metal. End of story. I don't want to argue about it. You are wrong. I'm right. And then on the other side, you're going to have the people that often are the younger fans, maybe in their 20s or 30s, weren't there weren't there when Venom broke. I myself wasn't. And those are going to be the people that are like, fuck that. Venom aren't black metal. They aren't black metal. They never were. End of story. Fuck you. Blah, blah, blah. Now, if you're wondering where I fall, I kind of fall somewhere in the middle. More leaning towards the not black metal side. I know I might get some shit for this. And, dude, first of all, don't come attacking me. I don't like that. But this is something that I've thought about for a long time, for decades. And basically where I sit is, at most, I consider Venom a first wave black metal band. Which is another thing that can be debated. What is first wave black metal? Is it actually black metal? And then I'm also going to say I don't necessarily consider most bands in the first wave of black metal to be black metal. I consider first wave of black metal to be not a genre or a subgenre, just a kind of a tag you can put on bands that basically inspired black metal, but not necessarily created it or were black metal at all. First wave black metal, what are those bands, first of all? I always say, Hellhammer, Celtic Frost, obviously Venom, Bathory, Merciful Fate, Sodom, the very, very early Sodom, the first Destruction EP. You could probably throw in there Sarcophago. Obviously, Mayhem and Sarcophago are considered second wave black metal bands, but I consider them to be first and second wave because they were there in the time of the first wave. Those bands actually continued to play black metal and played, what we would consider real black metal. As for bands like Merciful Fate, I mean, come on. If you're going to put them in the first wave black metal camp, I'm okay with that. But I don't really, I consider them being, like I said, a band that inspired black metal, but never really played any sort of black metal. I mean, they're a traditional heavy metal band with dark lyrics, satanic lyrics. So Venom for me, obviously, had they not coined the term black metal, I don't think people would argue as much for them being a black metal band. I don't think we'd even be here talking about it right now. I consider Venom I know this is a tough pill to swallow, but I consider them, even Kronos would argue with me, but I consider them to be a band that they are the godfathers of black metal. However, I don't really consider them to be black metal. Kind of like how, Black Sabbath are considered the godfathers of heavy metal, but when they started, there was no heavy metal when they started, and they never really considered themselves to be a heavy metal band. That's just the tag people threw at them. They've always called themselves a rock band. Judas Priest often refer to themselves as a rock band. Venom, for me, at most, first wave black metal founded the genre. They basically got the ball rolling, but they never really were a black metal band, in my opinion. And the second band I'm going to be talking about are Possessed. Possessed are easily one of my favorite thrash bands of all time. Notice how I call them a thrash band, because the question at hand is, are Possessed death metal? Again, you have the camp that are firmly rooted in the opinion that Possessed were and are a death metal band. And then you have the other side. Possessed were never a death metal band; they're a thrash band. Now, I lean way more towards the latter than I do with Venom. With Venom, I'm almost kind of in the middle. With Possessed, I almost don't consider them death metal at all. In fact, I've always referred to them as a thrash band. Again, we might not be having this conversation here had they not coined the term death metal. They had the song called Death Metal. I get it. And I will say those early demos, the early demo stuff, and even Seven Churches, yeah, sure, it's much darker, it's much more nastier, it's much more guttural than pretty much any thrash at the time. So I kind of get that, but I feel also like they were getting that sound because they were young and inexperienced, and that's just kind of how the recordings played out. Because look at what they would do further on in their career. The Beyond the Gates and the Eyes of Horror EP. I mean, those are total thrash. Those are total thrash recordings. I feel like that's the sound that they wanted the whole time. I don't really consider them a death metal band. Like I said, I can kind of see the argument because, again, to repeat myself, the early demo stuff and Seven Churches, real nasty, real guttural sounding stuff. It is kind of pushing into death metal territory, but you know what? So is Slayer's Rain and Blood. Listen to those riffs. Those riffs are total proto death metal riffs. But nobody calls Slayer a death metal band because they did, Tom Araya, sang in more of a higher register. Had Jeff Becerra not had that sort of semi-guttural vocal style, I don't think. And people could say, well, that's why I call it death metal, because Jeff Becerra's vocals, to me, are death metal. But to me, they just aren't. You'd have Death, who always were death metal, even if their early stuff was a little bit was very much thrash oriented, especially with like the Mantis stuff. But even Mantis, to me, Mantis sounds like death metal, as to where Possessed just, they don't give me that feeling. But also, first wave death metal, you could say like Creator, the first two Creator albums. What other bands would you throw in first wave death metal? For me, first wave death metal is not so much of a thing as first wave black metal is, and it's not as debatable. But anyways, to kind of recap, Venom, I don't really feel like are a black metal band. I know I'm gonna get some shit for that, and this is not a hastily made decision to have this opinion. This is something I've debated for decades. Yes, they coined the term black metal. Yes, they did lay down kind of a proto black metal sound, but that's just the sound that they had. They never, I don't really consider, sure, they had dark, they had dark song titles and lyrics, but they also had songs like Teacher's Pet and stuff like that, which, is like more into like Van Halen territory. And that kind of, that's not black metal. And for Possessed, I don't consider them a death metal band. I'm sorry. I have them firmly in the thrash genre. And I know I'm going to get some shit for that as well, because I've seen people damn near get crucified on social media for having these opinions. For me, it's like, opinions are cool, but you got to be able to articulate it. You got to be able to back it up. And I do back up those opinions. So anyways, let me know how you feel. I kind of know how this is going to go. What inspired me to do this is just, the years and years and years of seeing people argue about this shit online. I've seen people, older metal fans in their 40s and 50s just get totally pissed off. Like, Venom are black metal and Possessed are death metal. You weren't there like I was. And I get that opinion, but there's also, the younger metal fans that are, that I find even almost maybe more annoying. I don't usually call people out on this channel, but I remember a couple years back when I watched a few of Canyon Bickle's videos. I'm not really a fan of the dude's channel. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm sure he's a nice guy and everything, but he made this comment that actually kind of pissed me off. I'm going to try to quote it, and if I misquote it, I apologize. But from what I remember, he was doing a video talking about black metal, and he said something about that shit Venom album is not black metal, and that I'm okay with that opinion, but I guess I was pissed off for for him calling Venom a shit band and having a shit album, which we know which is black metal. It's a phenomenal album, and Venom are a legendary band. They're one of my favorites, and dude, you don't have to like them. That's fine, but don't go around calling them a shit band with shit albums. I think that's kind of a shitty attitude to have. But yeah, let me know how you guys. Let me know what you guys think. I think I already know what a lot of you will say, but I'm genuinely curious to see to hear your feedback on that. Anyways, thanks for stopping by, guys. We will talk soon. Cheers.